What? What did you say? Really?
So, while I was living under my rock, it seems Capcom has gone soft and announced a new Mega Man game. Mega Man 11 will be a new and improved sequel to the old Mega Man franchise. And while I have to admit I haven't really played any of the Mega Man games, I also never got around to catch up on them. Well, except this one. Doesn't that even count? I did, however, play a very similar game and its sequel, Azure Striker Gunvolt, or as it's called in Japan, Armored Blue Gunvolt. It was developed by Inti Creates. Sound familiar? Well, maybe you've heard of their games. These guys seem to have had a hand in most jump'n'run shooters for quite some time now. For better, or for worse, or for both. They are obviously veterans in the genre, and most of their games are rock solid. Gunvolt was first released on a 3DS and was later ported to the Switch and PC at a universal cost of $15. The main story, complete with true ending, takes about 10 hours to complete. That being said, it's pretty easy to rack up more than that because of the replay value of each stage. In addition, because of frequent sales on Steam, the price tag is nothing more than a vague construct for most people. Probably the first thing to note is how good the game looks. I mean, the beauty of pixel art is in the eye of the beholder, such and such, but I would guess that most people watching this video should be fine with this art style. The characters are superbly animated and all have a distinctive look and presence. Their attacks are mostly easy to tell but satisfyingly hard to dodge, and even in hectic moments it isn't too hard to keep track of the battle once you know what to look out for. That being said, I can imagine most first-time players will inevitably be overwhelmed by a visually noisy screen. There, can't you see the great sprite work under all that other junk? There are some design decisions clashing when talking about the game's themes and the way it's presented, particularly the story. But I'll have to continue that train of thought later when I'm talking about the translation. Okay, so as you may have already gathered, this is Gunvolt, or GV. He is what's known as an adept. Superhumans with powers called Septima, named after the fictional concept of the life wave. These are otherworldly connections which bind living beings to power. The highest waveform, the septimal stage, grants the person incomparable cognitive and physical powers, the Septima. These can range from teleportation to resurrection to this guy.
I am the pain.
And of course, Gunvolt's electricity powers. Most of this information isn't even in the game, but in a separate web novel that was released at a later point in time. It took some digging just to find out why the group of bad guys was named the way they were, in this case the Sevens, alluding to the aforementioned LifeWave pseudoscience. And this is the point the story of the game finally picks up, because when there's power, there's people trying to control it. Enter the Zumuragi group, who brainwash adepts to do their bidding and to help them take over the world. And the only ones capable of stopping them is the resistance group Quill, which Gunvolt is part of. Yes, it's the tried and true evil bad corporation plot, but there is a twist to it. You see, Gunvolt's first mission of the game is to destroy the Muse Lumen, presumably a computer program that sings catchy pop songs to appeal to the masses, while at the same time having subliminal brainwashing effects.
Is there a conspiracy theory I'm unaware of?
So GV follows after a lead to its whereabouts, jumping a train and disintegrating man and machine alike. When he finally finds the Muse, it's revealed that it wasn't a program, but a little girl all along. Enemy's weird, man. The following scene is really heart-wrenching, or it would have been if I knew any of these characters at this point. I've only been playing for around 10 minutes max. Who are these people and why should I care again? After that, some stuff happens and the girl, Jewel, moves in with GV. But not before she falls in love with him. Of course. But isn't the age gap between them a bit too big? Huh. Apparently not. Enemy's weird, man. So she hangs out at Casa GV while he goes out fighting literal demigods for a living. Talk about gender equality. But she isn't that classical incompetent damsel character, because she'll help out GV when he's Wait, one moment, God damn it. What? Well, apparently that. Getting a second chance really helps to get through the stages in the beginning, since they are all about the same difficulty. Well, they have to be, cause in true Mega Man fashion, you can play them in the order you like. And while this is the game's equivalent of giving you a lollipop and letting you go with a warning, it feels badass to get revived, while a seriously pumping song plays in the background the whole time, so it's at least like getting a cola flavored one. But do yourself a favor and play any stage you needed Anthem for again, so you get to learn the mechanics better. Also for the replay value. But that doesn't mean the game's easy. The stages all have their own theme as you'd expect, and bring their own spin to the formula. Then, in the final leg of the game, everything comes together in some adequately hard last few stages, and a balls to the wall final boss. And when I'm already talking about the gameplay, you've probably noticed that the game doesn't look like any normal side-scroller. And that's because GB doesn't fight primarily with his gun, but with his electro powers by frying his enemies alive. When he hits an enemy, they get tagged. How many tags can be active at a time depends on the gun, but every enemy can have up to 3 tags, each of which increase the power of his flash field. Or you could tag multiple enemies and get more bang for your buck. His flash field isn't just an offensive skill though. While it's active, it destroys most incoming projectiles, so it's your best offensive as well as defensive abilities, and some other stuff on the side. You'll find the groove quick enough, as it's the central game mechanic. Now, playing for ranks, that's another story. It's quite a learning curve to get from straight Bs to Ss and the occasional S+. And it's not like I wanted to do it, but because of my research and badly timed updates, I had to play through this game a total of 5 times. Fortunately, I'm really fond of this game, so I don't mind the additional playtime too much. I could use a break though. But back on topic. Remember those cool abilities Mega Man got after defeating a boss? Yeah, well, I hope you didn't like those too much, because they're a thing of the past. Or the future. Instead, you get some good, one really great, but else mostly useless abilities after hitting a level requirement. Did I mention the game has leveling mechanics? At least they're non-intrusive. The only thing gained by leveling are stat abilities, so no stat improvements and no grinding. Not for levels at least. You see, after clearing a stage, you get to choose some random materials of differing rarity. Then you can go to the synth menu and use them to build accessories for some additional changes. These range from minor stat improvements to access to completely new gameplay mechanics. But some materials can only be acquired in certain stages, so you'll have to play through them multiple times to get what you want. Furthermore, after synthing an item, you may unlock new synthable items that offer greater benefits but at the cost of rarer materials and more money. It's easier than it looks, but still much more complex than it needs to be. Also, did anyone ever sell stuff? With this system, money is the least of your worries. I never once felt the need to sell anything in all of my playthroughs. But I'm getting sidetracked. The music in the game is great. There are some duds, but most songs really have a unique aura around them. What I really love is how they sound like classical chiptune themes, but reimagined with real instruments. But not in an orchestra kind of way, but as electro music. So you can imagine it fits the game like a glove. But what really steals the show are the stellar songs by the fictional idol Lumen that play on special occasions. One is the theme for getting resurrected, and most others are played when you get 1000 kudos in a mission without losing them. Yeah, well, I hope you like Japanese, and not only because of the songs. Even the dialogue is fully voiced in moonglyphs. It's like watching a Gunvolt anime. Huh. And don't you think you can outsmart me by picking English mode instead of Japanese voice mode in the settings, because that is the worst version of the game. It has not a single voiced line, no in-stage chatter from other characters, and as if that's not bad enough, there are even whole conversations just thrown out of the window from the bits that remain. So, do yourself a favor and just pick Japanese voice mode. Remember when I said I'd talk about the clashing designs of the story and the way it's presented? Well, here's why. While I like the fully voiced Japanese dialogue, even as a die-hard sub-watcher it's pretty hard to keep track of all the story at the bottom of the screen, even if it is mostly just flavor text. But with the way it is, I'll never know if it's cola flavored. Well, I could stop and wait, effectively turning it into some kind of codec call, but why would I do that when I play the literal personification of lightning, even down to the stylish after images? And after recording, I dug out some clips to read the parts that I missed, and yes, they help in building the characters and villains, but are ultimately pointless in the big picture. So it's a bit of a shame, but since you'll be replaying most stages anyway, it's easy enough to catch up on the story. And this overarching storyline really is something. I won't spoil even a bit, but the true ending really takes the cake for leaving me begging for a sequel, without even having a cliffhanger. And then we even got a mostly improved sequel, and its ending put a nice lid on the whole story with no room for second guessing. Anime's weird, man. Now, after you know all this, which version would I recommend to play? Had you asked me half a year ago, I would have said the Switch version, without hesitation. But after a semi-recent update for the Steam version, they are both on par. Before, the game had less options, a 30 FPS limit and other stuff that worsened its quality of life, but not anymore. Who would have guessed that they update their game so significantly 3 years after launch? It speaks volumes about how much they care. And that's why I'll keep on playing Azure Striker Gunvolt, a true successor to Mega Man that doesn't take too many missteps in the gameplay department, while having a pretty simple but effective story that is laced with pacing issues, but is retroactively redeemed by the stellar ending. And let's be honest, we don't play these games for the story first and foremost. It looks phenomenal, has a great soundtrack and a gameplay loop that hooks from the first minute right until the end. And who knows, maybe all of this is an indication that we'll see the sequel make its way to PC someday as well. And you betcha when that happens I'll make a review of it. I can't wait.